In the beautiful village of Encarnaza lived a young woman named Zola. Zola was known throughout the village for her beauty, grace, and kindness. Her skin was smooth and polished, and her eyes sparkled like the stars on a clear night. She was married to Kwame, a man whose love for her was pure and unwavering. For 5 years they had shared their lives together. But there was one shadow that darkened Zola's otherwise happy life. She was a barren woman in the Ashanti Plains. Motherhood was seen as a woman's highest calling, a sign of favor from the gods. The people believed that a woman's worth was measured by the number of children she bore. Unfortunately for Zola, this belief became the source of endless torment for her. Though she and Kwame were deeply in love with each other, always spending time together as time went by, the villagers began to gossip behind their back. The women of Encarnaza particularly took great pleasure in mocking her. They gathered at the Nile shores every morning, laughing and gossiping at all who passed by. "Look, there she goes," Thandi would sneer as Zola approached the river. Thandi, a mother of 6 healthy children, was the ringleader of the village women and took great pride in her large family. A woman so beautiful, yet no children to show for it. "What a waste," Thandi would say. The others would laugh cruelly. "Maybe the gods are punishing her," another woman, Abeni, would add. "What good is beauty if you cannot even bear a child?" Zola, outwardly strong, felt the weight of their words like a heavy stone in her heart. She kept her head high as she fetched her water, pretending not to hear their insults. But when she returned home, the loneliness engulfed her. She longed for a child, someone to love and hold. Someone who would silence the cruel voices of the other women and bring peace to her heart. Kwame, ever the devoted husband, would comfort her. "Do not listen to them, my love," he would say, holding her so close to himself. "You are more than enough for me. Children will come when the gods are ready." But it wasn't just the women of Encarnaza who tormented Zola. Mama Kwame, Kwame's mother, was a harsh and impatient woman. She had high hopes for her son, and after 5 years of marriage with no children, her frustration grew by the day. "You have been in this house for how many years now?" Mama Kwame would say with disdain. "Still no children, no grandchildren to warm my old bones. What kind of a woman are you?" Zola would lower her head in shame, unable to respond. She had prayed and sacrificed at every shrine, seeking favor from the gods, but still no child came. "If you cannot bear my son children," Mama Kwame would continue, "perhaps it is time for you to leave so that he can marry another woman who will." Zola's heart shattered into pieces with each cruel word. She loved Kwame dearly, and the thought of leaving him was unbearable. But what could she do? She had tried everything, her prayers, her sacrifices, yet her womb remained empty. A desperate plea at the Baobab of Secrets one particularly harsh day. After an argument with Mama Kwame, Zola fled from the house. She could no longer endure the pain and the shame. The whispers and the constant pressure to fulfill a role she so desperately wanted but could not control. Her feet carried her away from the village into the thick Omo forest beyond. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she needed to escape. As the sun began to set and the shadows of the trees grew longer and darker, Zola found herself at the foot of a great tree. This was the Baobab of Secrets, a place the villagers feared. Legends said that spirits and ancient gods lived in the tree's depths, and those who ventured too far would never return. Zola was not afraid. At that moment, she felt she had nothing to lose. She knelt before the tree and wept. "Oh, great spirit of the tree," she cried, her voice trembling. "I come to you with a heavy heart. Please hear my plea. I have been mocked, shamed, and tormented because I cannot bear a child. If there is any mercy left in the world, please bless me with a child of my own. I am willing to do anything for a child." For a long moment, there was silence. The wind whispered through the tree, and Zola feared that no one had heard her cries. But just as she was about to rise and return home in despair, a soft voice called out from the darkness. The voice said gently but commandingly, "Zola." Startled, Zola looked up to see an old woman standing behind her. The woman was dressed in simple white robes, her hair silver like the moonlight, and her eyes sparkled with ancient wisdom. There was something otherworldly about her presence, as if she was not entirely from this world. "Who are you?" Zola asked, wiping her tears. "I am the servant of the tree," the old woman replied, her voice like the rustling leaves. "My name is Nia. Why do you weep so bitterly, my child?" "I weep because I cannot have a child," Zola explained. "And without a child, I am nothing in my village. My mother-in-law despises me, and the women mock me. I would give anything to be blessed with a child." Naya regarded her with a knowing gaze. "You speak of children as though they are the only measures of your worth, but there is more to life than the gift of motherhood, O Zola. Do you not see the beauty and kindness within you? Still, I understand your pain. The path ahead will not be easy, but if you are truly willing to do anything, then I will show you a way." Zola's heart raced with hope. "I will do anything," she said earnestly. Naya nodded and pointed to a narrow path that led deeper into the forest. "Follow this path to the heart of the tree. There you will find a tree unlike any other. Its branches reach the heavens, and its roots stretch to the depths of the earth. Pluck one leaf from its branches and return to me. The mysterious leaf and a hidden price without hesitation." Zola rose and followed the path. The forest grew darker and more forbidden with every step. Yet Zola pressed on, driven by the hope that her prayers might finally be answered. After what felt like an eternity, she reached a small clearing bathed in the silver glow of the moon. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient tree with shimmering leaves that sparkled like stars. Zola stood in awe for a moment, marveling at the tree's beauty. She carefully plucked a single leaf from its branches and turned back to Naya. But as she did, a voice echoed through the clearing. "Beware, Zola," the voice whispered, though there was no one in sight. "The path you seek comes with a price." Zola paused, her heart pounding. "What price?" She called into the darkness, but there was no response. She hurried back to Nia, who was waiting for her at the foot of the tree. "You have done well," Nia said, taking the leaf. "Now listen carefully. When you return to your village, plant this leaf in your garden and tend to it every day. It will not grow into an ordinary tree. It will show you the way to motherhood. But you must be patient. The journey ahead will test your heart." Zola thanked Naya and hurried home, her heart filled with hope. A strange plant and whispers of witchcraft when she returned to her home. She did as Naya instructed. She planted the leaf in her Okavango garden and watered it every day. Weeks passed, and to her amazement, a small sprout emerged from the soil. But it did not grow like any other plant. Instead, it twisted and turned into strange, otherworldly shapes. As the plant grew, Zola's dreams became more vivid. She dreamed of a small child, a boy with eyes as bright as the sun. He would call out to her in her dreams, reaching for her with tiny hands. But each time she tried to hold him, he would vanish into thin air. The villagers noticed the plant growing in Zola's garden and began to whisper even more. "What is she doing now?" they said. "Perhaps she has turned to a witch to get a child." Even Mama Kwame grew suspicious. "What is this thing growing in your garden?" she demanded one day. "You will bring a curse upon this house." But Zola ignored them all. She knew in her heart that the plant held the keys to her deepest desires. She continued to tend to it even as the gossip and rumors grew louder. The golden fruit and a sacred responsibility one day. When the plant had grown tall and strong, something extraordinary happened. As Zola was tending to it, the plant began to glow with a soft golden light. From its branches, a single fruit appeared, shaped like a small golden gourd. It shimmered in the sunlight, and Zola knew that this was the moment she had been waiting for. She carefully plucked the fruit and brought it inside. That night, in her dream, Nia appeared once again, standing in a clearing surrounded by moonlight. Her expression was calm yet serious. "Zola," Nia said softly, "you have done well to follow the path with patience. Now, the fruit you have plucked is no ordinary fruit. It holds the essence of life. But beyond the gift of a child, like all gifts from the spirit, it comes with conditions." Zola's heart raced. "What conditions?" she asked. Naya stepped closer, her voice quiet but firm. "You must consume the fruit if you wish to bear a child. But understand this, Your child will not be like others. He will be a blessing, yes, but his destiny will be tied to the spirit. You must raise him with great care, for he will not belong to this world alone." "What do you mean by that?" Zola asked, confused and anxious. "In time, you will understand. But know this, Zola, the love and protection you give him will shape his path. If you are ready to take this responsibility, then eat the fruit at sunrise." With that, Nia disappeared, and Zola awoke, her heart pounding. The golden fruit lay on her table, glowing faintly in the morning sunlight. She hesitated, thinking about Nia's words. What did it mean for her child to be tied to the spirit? Would he bring danger? Was she truly ready for such a burden? But then she thought of all the years of mockery and pain, of her deep longing for a child. She had not come this far to turn back. At dawn, Zola took the fruit in her hand and, with a prayer to the gods, she ate it. The taste was unlike anything she had ever experienced, sweet yet strange. And as soon as she swallowed it, she felt a warmth spread through her body. It was as if the sun itself had taken root within her. She knew in that moment that something had changed. A miraculous pregnancy and Kofi's arrival days turned into weeks. And soon Zola realized she was pregnant. Her joy knew no bounds. She rushed to tell Kwame, who was overjoyed as well. And even Mama Kwame, who had been so harsh before, softened at the news. The villagers were astonished. The woman they had mocked for years was finally with a child. The whispers turned from ridicule to curiosity. "How did it happen?" they asked. "What magic did she use?" But Zola kept the secret of Naya and the golden fruit to herself. As her belly grew, so did her dreams. Every night she dreamed of her child, always the same boy with bright eyes, laughing and reaching out to her. But in some dreams, shadows loomed around him. And Naya's words echoed in her ears. "He will not belong to this world alone." Months passed. And finally, the day of birth arrived. It was a long and difficult labor, but in the end, Zola gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. He was perfect, with skin as smooth as hers and eyes that gleamed with otherworldly light. They named him Kofi. Kofi's unearthly gifts from the moment he was born. It was clear that Kofi was not an ordinary child. As a baby, he rarely cried, but instead he would gaze around the room with wide, curious eyes, as if he could see things that no one else could. And as he grew, strange things began to happen around him. One day, when Kofi was only a few months old, Zola was carrying him through the village when a strong wind began to blow. The villagers rushed to secure their huts. But Kofi giggled and reached out his tiny hands. And just like that, the wind stopped. The villagers were stunned. They began to whisper, "The child has powers. He is favored by the spirit." As Kofi grew into a toddler, more strange events occurred. Flowers bloomed wherever he crawled, and animals, even the wildest ones, seemed drawn to him, as if they recognized something in him that the villagers couldn't see. At first, Zola was overjoyed by her son's gifts. It was everything she had prayed for and more. But as time went on, she began to worry. Nia's warning weighed heavily in her heart. What did it mean for Kofi to be tied to the spirit? Was his destiny truly in her hands? Or was there something greater at work? Unveiling Kofi's destiny one evening, when Kofi was about 5 years old. Zola took him to the same spot at the foot of the Baobab of Secrets where she had first met Nia. She needed answers. As she stood there, Zola called out to the spirit, "Great spirit of the trees, I have come once again. I beg you, please tell me what lies ahead for my son. What is the meaning of his gift?" For a long time, there was silence. Zola's heart began to sink. But then, just as before, Nia appeared, stepping out from the shadows as if she had been waiting all along. "Zola," Nia said, her eyes filled with kindness. "You have done well in raising your son. His gifts are a blessing, but they also come with great responsibility. He was born of the tree's magic, and the spirits watch over him. But as he grows, he will have to choose his own path." "Choose?" Zola asked, confused. "What choice must he make?" Nia smiled softly. "There will come a time when Kofi will be called to serve the spirit. live among them and use his gifts for the good of the world. But the decision will be his. You cannot make it for him. Zola's heart clenched. The thought of losing her son was unbearable. Will he have to leave me? Naya placed a gentle hand on Zola's shoulders. Perhaps, but remember, he is not yours alone. The world needs him just as much as you do. You must be strong and trust that whatever path he chooses, it will be the right one. With that, Nia disappeared once again, leaving Zola standing at the foot of the tree, her heart heavy with both pride and sorrow. Kofi's choice and Zola's enduring legacies. The years passed. Kofi continued to grow, and his gifts became even more apparent. He could heal the sick with a touch of his hands, calm the storm, and speak to animals of the forest. The villagers came to revere him, no longer whispering behind Zola's back, but instead bowing in awe when Kofi passed by. Yet Zola could not forget Nia's warning. She knew that the day would come when her son would finally choose his path. When Kofi turned 18, that day finally came. One morning, as Zola prepared breakfast, Kofi came to her with a solemn expression on his face. "Mother," he said quietly, "it is time." Zola's heart broke, but she nodded, knowing this moment would come. "Do you know where you will go?" she asked, her voice trembling. Kofi smiled gently. "The spirits have been calling me in my dreams. I must go to the foot of the great tree. But don't worry, Mother, I'll always be with you, even if I'm not here." With tears in her eyes, Zola embraced her son. She had raised him with love and so much care. She could not withstand losing him to fulfill his destiny. That evening, as the sun set behind the great tree, Kofi left the village. Zola watched him go, her heart filled with both pride and sorrow. She knew he would become something greater than she could ever imagine. But she also knew that the love between them would never fade. From that day on, the villagers would tell the story of Zola and her son, the child of the great tree, who had been born out of magic and love. And though she missed her son dearly, Zola found peace in knowing that she had played her part in something much bigger than herself. And so her story, like the ancient tree, lived on a tale of hope, sacrifice, and the bond between a mother and a child.